I went to my sister's gender reveal party. She held out the ultrasound picture like it was treasure, smiling proudly. She said, "Isn't she beautiful?" I am a radiologist. I looked at the image, and all the warmth in my body seemed to vanish. My blood ran cold. I pulled her husband aside and said, "We need to talk right now." That was not a baby. My sister Emma handed me the printout at 2:47 p.m. on a Saturday. Her face was shining with the kind of happiness only a pregnant woman seems to glow with. She said the words that changed everything for me. "Isn't she beautiful?" I'm a radiologist. I have done this for a long time. 17 years of training and work, board certified in diagnostic imaging, plus extra specialization in obstetric and gynecological radiology. I have studied more than 12,000 ultrasound scans in my career. I read them the way most people read street signs, fast and automatic, almost without thinking. So when I saw what was on that glossy paper, I knew something was wrong before my mind even finished forming the thought. The shape was wrong. The position was wrong. The look of the tissue was wrong. Everything about it felt off. Emma believed the picture showed her baby's side profile. She thought she was seeing a sweet forehead, a tiny nose, a perfect little face. She had probably traced that curve with her finger again and again, full of love. But it was not a face. It was something else, something solid where nothing solid should be. I did not react. I kept my face calm and blank. Years of telling patients hard news had taught me that. You learn to control every tiny muscle in your face, because one wrong look can crush someone. You learn to hold your fear behind your eyes. I asked gently, "Where did you get this done?" Emma smiled even more. She had no idea what was happening in my chest. She said it was from that new place in a shopping center, Bundle of Joy Imaging. She told me they do the 3D pictures and keepsake videos. She said they even sell teddy bears that play the heartbeat recording. She said it was so much nicer than her regular doctor's office. The rooms were decorated like nurseries, she said, and they gave her champagne after. Sparkling cider for me, obviously, she added with a little laugh. I stared at her, still smiling on the outside, while my mind raced. Not a hospital, not her obstetrician, not a medical clinic. It was a strip mall boutique. People there might have taken a short course, bought a secondhand machine, and started charging hopeful families. They were selling feelings, not medicine. I forced a soft smile. I told her the picture was lovely. I said I needed the bathroom. I did not go to the bathroom. I went to the kitchen and found her husband Greg. He was opening a beer before the big balloon pop. I walked straight to him. "We need to talk," I said. Now he laughed. Greg always had an easy laugh, the kind that made people relax. He said, "What? Are you going to lecture me about Emma's diet again?" I know. She had sushi last week. One California roll is not going to. I cut him off. That is not a baby on that ultrasound. He froze with the bottle halfway to his mouth. His face went blank in a way I had seen before, that stunned moment when a brain receives information it cannot accept. "What?" he said. I grabbed his arm and pulled him into the laundry room. I shut the door. Outside, the party noise continued, 50 guests laughing and talking, excited and loud. In the laundry room, it felt quiet enough to end a life. I kept my voice low. I said the mass on that image is solid. Babies are not solid like that. In early scans, you see fluid, developing organs, spaces, soft shapes. This is dense and uniform. It is in the wrong place. The shape is wrong. The density is wrong. Everything is wrong. Greg leaned against the washing machine like his legs could not hold him. The color drained from his face. But she felt it kick, he whispered. She has felt it move for weeks. I swallowed hard. Large masses can cause movement sensations, I said. Pressure shifts, organs get pushed, intestines move. To someone who has never been pregnant before, it can feel like kicking. But it is not a baby. It is the mass shifting. Greg stared at me, eyes wide and wet. "So what are you saying? What is it?" I shook my head. I did not know exactly. It could be a fibroid. It could be a dermoid cyst. It could be something worse. I cannot say the worst word yet. Not until we had proof. I said, Emma needs a real diagnostic ultrasound at a real hospital with trained staff and proper equipment. Tonight. Not tomorrow. Tonight. Greg looked at the door. Through it we could hear Emma laughing at something, bright and happy. His voice cracked. She's going to be devastated. She has been planning this for months. The nursery is already painted. I said, she's going to be alive? That is what matters. Whatever is in there needs attention, and the sooner we understand what it is, the better her chances. He nodded slowly. Greg was practical. He built houses for a living. I saw him shift from shock into planning mode. "How do we do this?" he asked. "She will never agree to leave her own party. We will figure it out," I said. "But first, let her have the reveal. She deserves that moment." Greg swallowed. Even if it is the last happy moment she gets for a while, he finished softly. We opened the door and walked back to the party as if nothing had happened. The backyard looked like a magazine spread. Pink and blue streamers hung everywhere. A table sagged under cupcakes decorated with question marks, small fancy cakes, and a big cake shaped like a baby onesie. In the center of the yard, a huge black balloon floated, filled with helium and secrets. It waited to burst into pink or blue confetti. About 50 people stood around with glasses of bubbly and bright smiles. Our parents were there. Mom was already crying. Dad tried to pretend he was not emotional. Emma's friends from college, people from work, neighbors, and other loved ones filled the yard. They had gathered to celebrate a new chapter in her life. A chapter that did not exist. Emma's best friend Courtney grabbed my arm as I walked past. She had already had a few glasses of wine. She said, "Isn't this amazing?" I knew it was going to be a girl. I told Emma the way she is carrying low and round is classic girl bump. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her and say, "That is not a bump. That is a tumor. Stop talking like you know." But I did not. I smiled and said, "The decorations are beautiful, right?" Courtney kept talking. She said she helped pick everything out. The theme was sugar and spice because girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice. Then she leaned closer and said, "Honestly, Emma has been kind of a nightmare lately. Hormones, I guess." I thought of the mass pressing on Emma's organs. I thought of fatigue, nausea, pain, mood swings, all the symptoms she believed were normal pregnancy signs. Then Emma appeared beside me, almost vibrating with excitement. "It is time," she said. "Everyone is here. Get your phone ready." I pulled out my phone, opened the camera, and tried to make my hand stop shaking. Across the yard, Greg caught my eye. He looked like a man walking toward execution while trying to smile for photographs. Emma and Greg stood in front of the balloon. Emma wore a white sundress with tiny pink and blue flowers. "Gender neutral until we know," she had said when she bought it. Greg wore a blue button-down shirt she had picked for him. They looked perfect, happy, in love, and I knew it was all built on a lie. Emma lifted an oversized pin and turned to face the crowd. She smiled so hard it hurt to watch. "Okay, everyone, ready to find out if we are having a little princess or a little prince?" The crowd shouted 3. My mind screamed, "Stop this." 2. My throat tightened, but I said nothing. 1. God forgive me. Emma popped the balloon. Pink confetti exploded into the air and rained down like bright snow. It caught in hair, stuck to shoulders, drifted down onto grass in soft spirals. People screamed and clapped and cheered. Emma burst into tears. Happy tears. Beautiful, heartbreaking tears. She threw her arms around Greg and held on like he was the only solid thing in a world turned soft and magical. "A girl," she sobbed. "We are having a girl." I watched the pink paper settle on the lawn and felt my heart crack into pieces. 2 hours later, I made an excuse. I said there was a family emergency at the hospital. It felt bitter to say that, because the Real emergency was standing 10 feet away, hugging our mother and talking about nursery colors. I said, "I need Greg to drive me. I've had too much to drink." Emma pouted like she used to when we were kids. "You're leaving already?" she said. "We have not even cut the cake." "I know," I said softly. "I'm sorry. I will call you tomorrow. Promise." She hugged me. Her belly pressed against me. Not a baby bump, I knew now. Just the swelling of something dangerous growing inside her. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I know you're busy. It means so much." I said I would not have missed it. The lie tasted like ash in my mouth. Greg drove us straight to Mercy General Hospital in silence. I called ahead. I spoke to Dr. Rachel Chun, the head of obstetric imaging. She was my colleague and friend for 12 years. I explained everything quickly in clinical terms while Emma waved goodbye from the porch. "Bring her straight to radiology," Rachel said. "I will have a team ready. Full diagnostic workup. If it is what you fear, we will have surgery on standby." During the drive, Emma texted, "Is everything okay? You both looked so serious when you left." Greg's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "What do I tell her?" he asked. "Tell her we are picking up medication for me," I said. "Tell her there was a pharmacy mix-up. Tell her anything that buys us 20 minutes. Greg typed with one hand. "All good. Sarah just needed to grab something from the hospital. Back soon. Love you." 3 dots appeared as Emma typed back. Then she wrote, "Okay. Do not forget we have brunch with your mom tomorrow. Love you too." The normal tone of her message felt like a knife. When we arrived, they took Emma back within 20 minutes. To get her there, I had called Greg as we entered the parking lot and told him to bring her through the emergency department. I said I would meet them. Emma walked in looking confused and worried. "What is going on?" she asked. "Sarah, are you okay?" Greg said you had chest pain. I blinked. I had not said that. Greg had panicked and invented something. I said, "I'm fine, but we need to talk. Can we go somewhere private?" Dr. Chun was waiting in a consultation room with Dr. Marcus Webb, a gynecologic oncologist I had asked her to call. His presence was just a precaution, but my stomach still turned when I saw him. Emma's confusion shifted into fear. "Why are there doctors here?" she asked. I took her hands. They were cold and shaking. "Something is wrong," I said. "I need you to trust me. I need you to let them do an ultrasound. A real ultrasound with proper equipment." Emma pulled her hands back. "But I already had an ultrasound. The place you went to is not a medical facility," I said. "They are not licensed. They do not have proper training. And the image they gave you is not what you think." Her face crumpled. "What do you mean?" I felt my throat tighten. "I mean, it might not be a baby, Emma. There might be something else. We need to know right now, so we can help you." Behind her, Greg began to cry quietly. Tears ran down his face. He stood with his hands on her shoulders like he could hold her together. Emma stared at me, then at the doctors, then at Greg, then back to me. "You think I am not pregnant?" I answered carefully. "I think we need to find out for sure, with real equipment." I saw the fight leave her body. She whispered, "Please," and let them take her back. Dr. Chun did the scan herself. She had 30 years of experience and a steady hand. She moved the transducer across Emma's abdomen while I stood in the doorway, holding my breath. The image appeared on the screen. I watched Dr. Chen's face change. She tried to keep it neutral, but I saw the slip just for a second before she controlled it. Then she excused herself and returned with Dr. Webb closer to the screen. The mass was huge, about the size of cantaloupe. Solid, dense, clear. It grew from Emma's left ovary, like a dark planet. Not a baby. Never a baby. Emma stared at the screen, searching for something familiar. Where's the heartbeat? She asked. Why can't I hear it? At Bundle of Joy, they let me hear it. It was 142 beats per minute. Dr. Webb stepped forward. His voice was gentle, practiced, careful. Emma, there's no heartbeat. What they played for you is likely a recording, or possibly the sound of blood flow through a large mass. You are not pregnant. You have a large ovarian tumor that must be removed as soon as possible. Emma's hand flew to her belly. The bump she had talked to for months. The bump she had read stories to, played music for, dreamed about. But I felt her move, she whispered. I felt her kick. That was the tumor pressing against your organs, Dr. Webb explained. As it grew, it pushed your intestines and bladder. The shifting caused sensations that felt like fetal movement. Emma looked at me. Then Greg. Then the screen again. You knew, she whispered. At the party, when you looked at the picture, you knew. Tears burned my eyes. I nodded. I suspected. I was not certain until now. Her voice rose. Why didn't you say something? Why did you let me do the reveal? Let everyone celebrate? Because you deserve those last hours of happiness, I said. And because I needed to be sure. I could not destroy your world based on a suspicion. I needed proof. Emma squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. It is not fair, she sobbed. It is not fair. I did everything right. I took the vitamins. I stopped drinking coffee. I painted the nursery yellow, because they said yellow helps brain development. I did everything right, and there is no baby. There never was a baby. I held her while she cried. Greg held both of us. Dr. Chen documented the findings quietly, and Dr. Webb stepped out to arrange surgery. The operation was scheduled for the next morning. At 7:34 a.m. on Sunday, the surgical team removed a tumor the size of a small honeydew melon. Dr. Sarah Martinez, a surgical oncologist with 18 years of experience, performed the procedure with steady hands. Greg and I sat in the waiting room, staring at the floor, barely able to breathe. The pathology results came back on Tuesday. Benign. It was a mature cystic teratoma, often called a dermoid cyst. It contained hair, teeth, and oily material. It was disgusting, but it was not cancer. It was not going to kill her now that it was out. Her ovary was saved. Her fertility was preserved. But something else was gone forever, and no surgery could restore it. The first week after surgery was the hardest. Emma would not eat. She barely spoke. She stayed in bed, getting up only to use the bathroom. Greg took time off work to care for her. I helped coordinate with her doctors. A therapist named Dr. Amanda Foster came to the house several times. She specialized in pregnancy loss and reproductive trauma. One afternoon, she spoke to me in the kitchen while Emma slept upstairs. This is grief, she said. Deep grief. She is mourning a child who never existed, but who was real to her in every way. That baby had a name, a nursery, a future. All of that has vanished. Will she be okay? I asked. Eventually, with support and time, yes, Dr. Foster said. But this type of loss is complicated. There is no body to bury. No funeral. The world does not know how to acknowledge grief for something like this. She will need people to validate what she feels. I stayed with them for 2 weeks. I slept in the guest room. I cooked meals Emma hardly touched. I answered calls from family members who had been at the party and did not understand what happened. But she was pregnant, my mother kept repeating. We saw the ultrasound. We heard the heartbeat. You heard what they wanted you to hear, Mom, I said. It was not real. How is that possible? My mother asked. How can a place just lie like that? That question would not leave me. How could they lie like that? How could someone take money from a hopeful mother and hand her a fantasy dressed as medical truth? 3 weeks after Emma's surgery, I decided I needed answers. I started with research. Bundle of Joy Imaging had been open for about 18 months. It sat between a nail salon and a phone repair shop. Their website was glossy and confident. It promised 4D and 5D imaging. Gender reveals starting at $59. Hear your baby's heartbeat and take it home inside a teddy bear. There were no medical credentials listed anywhere. No physicians. No licensed technicians. No real explanation of what they could and could not do. Only smiling stock photos and promises of memories. I called the Arizona State Board of Medical Examiners. I spoke to a compliance officer named James Harrison. He had investigated unlicensed medical practice for 15 years. While I described what happened, he sighed like he had heard it many times. We know about these places, he said. They pop up constantly. They call themselves entertainment imaging or keepsake ultrasound. They try to stay in a gray area where they claim they're not medical. But once they start giving information about fetal health, development, gender, or positioning that crosses in a medical diagnosis, they're not allowed to do that. Can you shut them down? I asked. We need documented complaints, he said. Evidence that they're making medical claims. Testimony from people who were harmed. I could give him my sister's story, but I wanted more than one story. I wanted to know how many families have been fooled. Social media made it easier than I expected. Bundle of Joy had a Facebook page full of happy photos and glowing reviews. The rating was high. People wrote things like, amazing experience, so much better than my doctor, worth it to see my baby's face. But buried among the praise were other comments. A woman named Melissa Santos wrote that they told her she was having a boy at 16 weeks, but her doctor later confirmed it was a girl, and now she had bought a nursery full of blue clothes. A woman named Patricia Ortiz wrote that Bundle of Joy said her baby was measuring perfectly, but a week later her obstetrician found a serious heart defect. A man named David Kim wrote that his wife went there 3 times and they never said anything was wrong. She lost the baby at 24 weeks. The autopsy showed problems that should have been visible. My stomach turned as I read. I messaged every person who had posted concerns. I explained who I was, a radiologist, and why I was reaching out. I asked if they would share their story. 17 people answered within a week. The stories broke me. Amanda Chun, 31, had been told she was carrying healthy twins. In reality, one of the sacs was empty, a blighted ovum. She did not learn that until she was 20 weeks, when she delivered one baby and faced a wave of confusion and grief. Marcus and Lisa Rodriguez had been told their baby was a healthy girl at 13 weeks. Later, they learned the baby was a boy with severe chromosomal problems. They lost precious time that could have helped them prepare and make informed decisions. Jennifer Walsh, 28, had been told everything looked perfect. At her anatomy scan in a real clinic, she learned her baby had a fatal condition where the brain and skull do not develop. She told me on the phone that if she had known earlier, she could have ended the pregnancy sooner and more humanely. Instead, she carried for months, knowing the baby would die at birth. Then there was Sarah Blackwell, 24, in her first pregnancy. Bundle of Joy told her everything looked fine. Her regular doctor had confirmed she was pregnant, but had not yet done detailed imaging. What no one recognized, because no trained person had looked properly, was that Sarah's pregnancy was ectopic. The embryo was in her fallopian tube, not the uterus. At 13 weeks, the tube ruptured. She nearly bled to death alone in her apartment. Emergency surgery saved her life, but she lost the tube. Her fertility was permanently affected. They could have seen it, Dr. Chun told me when I showed her the documentation. Ectopic pregnancy can be seen on ultrasound if you know what to look for. But these people do not know. They're trained to find cute angles, not medical danger. I gathered everything for James Harrison. Printed statements. Medical records from families who agreed to share them. Screenshots of Bundle of Joy marketing that claimed they could check baby's health and confirm normal development. I also contacted a reporter, Victoria Stern from Channel 7 News. She had covered healthcare fraud for years and was known for going after dangerous operators. And I brought a lawyer, Catherine Park, a medical malpractice specialist with 23 years of experience. She was already preparing civil suits for the affected families. Harrison reviewed the pile of evidence and looked grim. "This is more than enough," he said. "We can issue a cease and desist right away and refer the criminal case to the county prosecutor." I said, "I want to be there when you shut them down." He frowned. "That is not standard." "My sister almost died," I said. "They handed her a tumor and called it baby. I want to see it end." Harrison looked at Victoria, who was taking notes. He looked at Catherine, who gave a small nod. Then he looked back at me. "Fine," he said. "Friday morning, 8 a.m. No cameras until we secure the place." The owner was Brenda Holloway, 53. She had once been a medical assistant. She had lost her license 8 years earlier for falsifying records. She had bought a used ultrasound machine online for $4,700 and rented the strip mall space cheaply. Her total startup costs were under $10,000. In 18 months, she had performed about 2,400 scans at an average price of $85. That was more than $200,000 in revenue from pretending to provide something she was not qualified to provide. Friday morning we arrived. 2 state board investigators came, plus a sheriff's deputy. Victoria and her crew waited outside as promised. Brenda was inside setting up. Pink walls, stuffed bears, shelves of baby-themed decorations, and a wall covered in photos of smiling infants. She greeted us with a bright smile that faltered when she saw badges and legal documents. "Can I help you?" she asked. James Harrison stepped forward. "Brenda Holloway, I am serving you a cease and desist order from the Arizona State Board of Medical Examiners. You're also being served with a criminal summons from the county prosecutor. This facility is shut down immediately pending investigation." Brenda's face drained white. "This is entertainment," she said quickly. "I'm not practicing medicine. I never claimed I was. You told my sister she had a healthy baby girl," I said. "You played her a fake heartbeat and charged her for a picture of a tumor. That tumor could have killed her if she did not have a radiologist in the family." Brenda's eyes darted around. "I do not know what you're talking about," she started. Catherine Park stepped forward with a folder. "We have 17 families willing to testify," she said. "Several have medical records proving serious conditions that should have been recognized. Some have direct harm linked to your false reassurance. One has a recorded conversation where you told her everything was perfect while she had an ectopic pregnancy." Brenda stiffened. "I want an attorney," she said. "I'm not saying anything else." "That is your right," Harrison replied. "But this facility is closed effective immediately. If you try to continue operating, you will face additional charges." After the space was secured, Victoria and her crew came inside. They filmed the walls, the baby decor, the equipment, and the fake medical atmosphere. Victoria interviewed me. "What do you want people to know about places like this?" she asked. I said, "Ultrasound is not entertainment. It is medicine. When unqualified people pretend to do medicine, people get hurt. My sister was lucky. Others were not. The story aired the following Friday at 6 p.m. It began with the hook. A local doctor says an imaging center promised baby pictures, but delivered something dangerous. Victoria did strong reporting. She interviewed 4 affected families on camera. She got statements from the medical board. She found former employees who admitted Brenda had no proper training and sometimes guessed or invented answers when she could not identify what appeared on the screen. The story spread across the region, then across the country. Other journalists began investigating similar businesses in other states. A major newspaper published a feature weeks later about the keepsake ultrasound industry and how poorly it is regulated. By the time Brenda went to trial, she faced 14 counts of practicing medicine without a license, 3 counts of fraud, and 1 count of reckless endangerment. The prosecutor, Jennifer Martinez, argued clearly. The defendant did not sell harmless fun, she said. She sold lies. She took money from hopeful families and told them what they wanted to hear, without the ability to recognize danger in those images. When the truth came out as tumors, ectopic pregnancies, and fatal abnormalities, she faced no consequences until now. The defense tried to compare the business to a psychic reading, something no reasonable person should treat as medical advice. The jury did not accept that. They deliberated for 4 hours and returned guilty verdicts on every charge. Brenda Holloway was sentenced to 4 years in state prison. She was ordered to pay restitution to affected families. She was also permanently prohibited from operating any health-related business. Emma testified at the trial. I sat in the courtroom and watched my sister speak with a steadiness that broke my heart. I had names picked out, she said. I painted a nursery. I talked to my belly at night. I told that baby what I hoped for her and what I wanted to give her. Then I learned she was never real. I had to grieve a daughter who never existed while recovering from surgery to remove what was actually inside me. She looked directly at Brenda. You took $40 from me and gave me a fantasy. When it collapsed, I had to rebuild my entire reality. I had to watch my husband cry for a baby that was never coming. All because you wanted money and wanted to pretend you were something you were not. The courtroom was silent. Then Emma said the part that hurt the most. The worst part is that I blamed myself at first. I thought a real mother would have known something was wrong. It took months of therapy to understand I did not fail. You failed. After her testimony, Emma walked past Brenda without looking at her. Then she paused by my seat. She leaned down and whispered, "Thank you for seeing what I cannot see. Thank you for saving my life." I squeezed her hand and whispered back, "That is what sisters do." 6 months after the trial, Emma invited me to her house again. Another party in the same backyard, another gathering of family and friends. But this time the decorations were different. No pink and blue streamers. No giant balloon. Only yellow and white flowers. A table held a small cake that said, "Welcome home." Emma met me at the door. She looked healthier than she had in a long time. Color in her cheeks. Light in her eyes. "We have news," she said, pulling me inside. In the living room, Greg was holding a tiny bundle wrapped in a yellow blanket. The bundle made small newborn sounds, soft and uncertain, like it was deciding whether to cry. "This is Sophie," Emma said. "She is 3 weeks old. We finalized the adoption yesterday." I stared at the baby, then at Emma. This time, her joy was real and grounded. Greg was crying again, but these were happy tears. "You did not tell me you were adopting," I said. "We wanted to wait until it was official," Emma replied. "After everything that happened, we could not handle more uncertainty." She took Sophie from Greg and held her close. "Dr. Foster thought bonding might be hard because of the trauma," Emma said. "She thought I might always feel something missing. But when I held Sophie for the first time, I knew. She's ours. She was always meant to be ours." I watched my sister hold her daughter, her real daughter, not a fantasy, not a lie, and something warm stirred in my chest for the first time in a long while.